So this is question 1 for our evaluation, which is: in what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media? So for the first part in the way, how does our product conform? So for a start, our product follows a very strong narrative, which is something alternative genres tend to do, and that is the specific genre of our product, which is Bastille. There's also no singing or miming. The entire focus is upon the narrative and the characters and the people in it. There's no particular people singing along to the words that are being sung. And there's also in the way that the identity of the band is not emphasised or underscored, unlike other artists of pop such as Ariana Grande, where they use stardom and their celebrity status to manipulate sales. And through this we've also created an idea of anonymity, in the way that the protagonist, through the poster, he remains like you never get to see his face. Remains very anonymous. So in terms of the band's original material, when looking into creating the poster and the digipack, we researched into the band's original materials, and we took note of what specific fonts and styles that they used and tried to incorporate that into our own product. So for the poster, we were inspired by the typical Bastille writing and the font that they used, especially in the way that they use an A as a triangle. And we also used the colour palette and the camera angles, which depicted a sense of anonymity, as mentioned earlier. And as I said as well, we analysed and looked into different posters released by the band and noted everything that was in theirs that we could incorporate into our own. Similar for the digipack, we looked into previous albums released by Bastille and noted everything which we could use to make our product as similar as the band's material. And from this we were particularly inspired by the fact that the album, it tended to have several different perspectives of the same scene, and so we used that in our own digipack in the way we had the front cover of the protagonist looking out at the sunset, the back shot was more of his surroundings and of the protagonist himself, and then the inside of the product, it was the actual sunset as well, so you got a bigger feel of to his surroundings. And in terms of Goodwin's theory as well, because this is a significant theory that we've looked into consistently throughout the course, so our product includes a notion of looking, several scenes revealed, particularly at the end where as the protagonist leaves and walks away from his spot in the field, and also when he's looking out with several mid-shots and extreme close-ups of his face. And there's also a significant relationship between the music and the visuals. So as soon as the music makes it, the narrative and the music, the things that are being sung, they conform very well together and they link to tell a story that the lyrics tell. There's also typical camera movements such as tracking, panning and handheld, which we used, and camera angles such as low angles, high angles, point of view shots, and especially over the shoulder shots. We also include a range of pitch, pace and volume, such as the music fading in and out. And there's also a significant relationship between the music and the visuals in the way that we have thought beats. So as soon as we get one beat, the visuals and what's happening, that goes with the rhythm. So in terms of how our product does develop things, for our narrative, we thought that it was a little bit more meaningful and deeper, like the story, there was something quite emotional and evocative about it. So it's very conforming to the genre of realism in the way the loss of a loved one and self-discovery is something that people encounter every day, which means that it's a little bit more identifiable and realistic to audiences who watch it. We also use sound effects, so we use diegetic music at the end with the birds and wind as the protagonist walks away down the field. And this is something that's not usually found in music videos, although at the same time it isn't uncommon. In terms of the band's original material, again, it makes a lot more sense than other normal Bastille videos. It's realistic, clear and understandable. And in comparison to some of their previous work, songs such as Good Grief and Blame, the narrative is very unpredictable and a little bit uncertain. And our music video also explores the taboo theme of religion, something that might be considered a little bit too sensitive or unapproachable to others, so in the way that the product develops normal media representations in the way we explore that a little bit. So in terms of how our product challenges, again, relating back to Goodwin's theory, there's no intertextual references found in our music video, which is something as well that alternative music videos also tend to include. There's no demands of the record label and ideas of stardom, and although this conforms to the alternative genre, a lot of music videos these days also include the underscore and make the identity of the pop singers very important. I mean, there's also no genre characteristics, so such as like if you in a pop video you would expect to find a dance routine, whereas if you're in a rock you would expect to see the band playing live with their music instruments. So in our product, we also used a few sophisticated effects, such as the smashing of the photo frame when the protagonist unleashes his anger, and we used glass as a point of view shot to suggest that the photo frame was breaking, which is something that's quite different. We also used several different transitions and flashes when he dropped the photo frame, flashes which were acted as flashbacks to when he was with his mother. So this made the music video more outstanding and striking, and also ensured that the narrative of the storyline didn't necessarily overwhelm the audience totally. Also, a typical convention of the alternative genre is ideas of voyeurism, which our product doesn't include. And what's also quite interesting is how our portrayal of the male character challenges the conventions of masculinity and also traditional media representations of male characters. So normally the male character is the tough, big, strong, the saviour, and when there's a woman, she's the one who's vulnerable and is being saved. So in a sense, we swapped these traditional roles. So the male protagonist, he'd lost his mother, he was emotional, he was vulnerable, and he needed help. And his mum was his anchor. She was the one that saved him and who he relied on. And he's not holding himself up. He's not this big, strong, masculine figure. He's in fact the quite opposite. And so when we also had female characters, although it is predominantly told from a male's perspective, there are also a few female characters features, such as the female priest, and she's the one again who helps him and who keeps him sane. And there's also the female extra who attends the funeral, and she's the one who gives him the Bible in the first place, which sparks his journey of self-discovery. So in a sense, she's the one that prompts him to become the better person that he is at the end. So yeah.